My name is Alec Wills, and I run a small Apple-focused IT company in Jacksonville, Florida called Bitworx. And we have been in business for 7 years now, and we have been using Smith.ai for 6 of those years. I first discovered Smith.ai when Justin was being interviewed on a podcast for Apple IT professionals called Command Control Power. And I was driving with my family down to Disney World, and I was just letting some podcasts play just so I had something to listen to. And everything that he was saying on the podcast just lined up perfectly with what we were needing at the time. So my family was getting annoyed because I kept hitting the skip back button so I could keep re-listening to parts. And then I got the end of the podcast right before we got to Disney World. So I had to keep skipping back so my podcast player wouldn't delete it automatically when it ended. We had been experiencing a lot of issues where potential clients were going to voicemail, and that was one of the things that he brought up. And just it seemed like every point that he hit on was a pain point that we were experiencing that we didn't know there was a solution to, or that there was an affordable solution to. It just seemed like one of those things that was going to require hiring someone just to do phones, and that was not within our budget, especially as a brand new company still. And of course, as Apple IT people, listening to Justin tell stories about working at Apple previously kind of resonated with me as well, because everyone that works for me is a former Apple employee in some way. So after listening to Justin talk and address all of the pain points that we didn't realize that we had and that could be addressed by an external company, we of course searched all over all the other companies that offer the same type of service as Smith, and they all had incredibly high minimums per month, of number of calls that you expected to come in and things like that. And also they charge for a lot of things that you shouldn't charge for, like spam calls. Every single one of those would count against our bill. And with Smith, that wasn't something we had to worry about. So if we were getting a lot of junk calls, it wasn't going to cost us anything. The other thing that I found, Smith had a great focus on the caller experience, where a lot of the other answering services that I had interacted with through the years were very robotic sounding. Like you knew immediately when you got the answering service versus someone in the company. And we've never experienced that with Smith through the years. So after getting started with Smith, I've never looked anywhere else. How we use Smith.ai hasn't really changed over time, other than we have been able to focus a lot more on our call intake system. When we first started, it was a very simple, let me get your contact information, make sure you even called the right place, and we'll get you in touch with someone soon. Now they have a script that they go through that qualifies the caller. We get a lot of business calls that are adjacent to what we do, but not exactly what we do. And so they can filter those out. And we have even given them some other companies in town that do those services so they can just help the client or the caller immediately get to the right place. But then after they get through that intake questionnaire, then we make sure that they get all the information we need so that when someone does reach out to them, we're fully prepared for the call instead of just going in blind. And we can even hand it off to an employee who may be better in that area to begin with. Smith.ai has helped us in so many ways. The largest impact was just that before Smith.ai, callers called in, and as the main employee, if I was busy doing something else, they would get directed to voicemail. And we probably on the high end had a 20% success rate on the caller even leaving a voicemail. Usually the voicemail was just a 1-second click and they moved on to the next company in town. With Smith.ai, we get useful data on every single caller that comes in, and almost always leads to a callback that can lead into real business. As far as stress reduction goes, I don't have to carry a second phone with me anymore. I don't have to panic at every single call that I see come in and look at the phone while I'm on a job site and determine is this one that I should answer that's going to lead to more business, or is this one that's going to tell me about my car warranty being expired? So the most unexpected way that Smith helped was making my business seem more professional and larger than it is, which can be important to some people. They don't want to call in to a one-man shop for whatever reason. And when they call and they talk to an employee who is not just the business owner or the technician who's going to help them, it leaves that impression there. And I expected to get good service from Smith.ai, but I never expected to get so many good reviews of employees where people would reach out to me after the fact and tell me, oh, the employee who answered the phone, they were so helpful and they took care of all of my information and made sure that I was going to get helped right away. And I have to kind of play along and pretend I know the employee that they're talking about because they feel like I do, because Smith.ai feels that natural when they call in. It doesn't feel like a robotic answering service. To me, the distinguishing factor with Smith.ai is that even as their team has grown through the years, I never feel like I'm dealing with a huge corporation where I'm just some unknown client. Everyone that I speak to there wants to take care of me when I have a need. And all of the people who answer the calls, they all want to do everything they can to help out the caller. I've never heard anything other than that, and I've never experienced anything other than that with Smith.ai. Myths about answering services: they definitely don't need to sound robotic. They don't need to sound like they're just filling out a form or running through a list of questions. They don't have to ask the same questions to every caller. They can tailor the call to whoever they're speaking to at the time and what their needs are. And they're allowed to sound natural. Smith.ai gives them the freedom to speak naturally to the caller. They don't have to follow the script word by word. As far as what industries can be helped by Smith.ai, I would say any small business that doesn't have someone available to answer the calls during all business hours, or even a business in that situation where they have one employee who's overwhelmed. Smith.ai is also a great backup option. And again, since they feel like they're part of the company, callers won't know when they've been rolled over to your phone backup support, basically. I can't imagine working with anyone else on my phone support. They're just part of our company at this point, and they have been for so many years. I can't imagine doing this job without them. I would have no time to actually do work. I'd be answering the phone all the time.